morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, May 3rd, 2021. This is our weekly Commissioner Status Update. Attending our Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Moving on to our first item, funding and bid notice for detective processing and marine buildings. General discussion. Leslie.
Yeah, unfortunately, I thought Corey Trapp was going to be here, but I guess we'll wing it. So we have a couple representatives from the Sheriff's Office. Apparently, the projected bids look like they're going to come in above the amount budgeted. So we kind of wanted to have a talk about where the money is going to come from. So at this point, the marine buildings, Lieutenant Higgins can probably speak to, if you want to.
Come on up.
Lieutenant Higgins, for the record, I don't know what the bid quote is going to be, but I know that in last year we budgeted for this project and it didn't go through. And so the money from last year rolled over, but
Yep.
we increased the budget this year because we anticipated increased funds or increased costs.
Okay.
So I believe in the vessel account where the money's been put for this project, there's sufficient funds to cover any anticipated costs for this.
Okay, all right, that's why I just want to make sure we were on the record knowing that.
Yeah,
All right.
There's well over $200,000, almost $220,000 available for this project, so we should be.
Let's hope it doesn't go that high.
But what are we looking at potentially?
Well, I think we budgeted originally about 100, and now it's
probably going to be 125 is what he's guessing. 125.
yeah.
So we're covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Captain Miller, we probably don't have as good a news for the evidence processing. You want to come up and? Yeah, I don't have any news. You don't have any news? Oh, okay.
Welcome, Stu.
Yeah, thank you. Stu, for the record, yeah, I was hoping that Corey was actually going to be here.
Okay. Well, we can touch base with him later, but I just wanted, again, to talk about where extra funds are coming from. It looks like.
You just walked in?
Oh. Yay.
Perfect timing, Corey.
Man of the hour.
You can come right up because we're talking about funds for the Evidence Processing Center.
Stu, you're off the hook. Go ahead, Corey.
So we already talked about Marine. Marine, we think, is going to go from about 100 to 125. They have money in the vessel accounts. We're okay. But the evidence processing is where we're kind of concerned. So evidence processing, we budgeted about 100, do you think?
Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago. We budgeted about 100. Just with the cost of material and lumber and things like that, I think it's going to go up. In fact,
Okay.
I know it's going to go up.
Do we have any idea about how much?
That's kind of like my best guess is I'm thinking about it's going to come in around 125. That's total project cost.
Okay.
Okay.
So it seems like both of them are about on track to be about the same.
Right.
Okay. I show that there's 95,000 in the detectives evidence storage project, so it looks like we're going to be about 30,000 short. Captain Miller, do you have any suggestions for where that might come from?
I'm afraid to hear this, but go ahead.
Okay.
So
Okay.
one is the vessel account, right?
Yes, yep. So the vessel account is, yeah, completely different than the evidence storage project. Okay, so then let's put our heads together then and figure out where that 30,000 might come from. And so we can go on with that.
So just one other point is that
Go right ahead.
we were going to bid the projects together. If we separate them, bid them separately, I think it'll cost more.
Right.
Because now you'll have two contractors potentially, and by bidding them together, we thought we could get some cost savings.
In a single ordering process, potentially.
Right.
Okay.
They're similar buildings, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, one's a pole building, the other one's a pole building with an addition onto it, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, well then let's figure that out so we can move forward. So I wish we had a more definitive answer right now because you need to submit those.
We need to submit for permit, we also need to put it out for bid, so we'll just hold and adjust the dates based upon when you give us approval to if you give us approval to move ahead.
Right. So Dina, at this point, if there's a funding source found, does it have to come back before the board before Corey goes out to bid? I mean,
I think that you'd at least want to have that on the record, right? I'm thinking contingency, because it's not.
That's what I was thinking as well.
So if you all three agree today to contingency and a vote, I can just move the money.
okay. So
Unfortunately, it's indicated as discussion.
it is, but we can bring it back at a business meeting.
Yep, absolutely.
But I would rather, if the three of us agree today that contingency is an option, then we send it out to bid, we find out what the real numbers are, then we come back and designate the funding source.
That makes sense. Bill?
Yes.
Okay?
Dina, what are we looking at for contingency? What's in there roughly?
300 for justice, 250 for,
Yeah, we haven't used a whole lot. We've used some in justice, but I think we've got 250 in the general fund, and I don't think we've used very
Okay,
much
so
of
we'd
that.
be looking at what, 30 here? Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, are we done with that for
think we
now?
are.
Okay, we're good?
yes.
Okay, item number 2, thank you, Corey. Item number 2, public transportation update, discussion. I guess I'm going to turn it over to Jody and Kim. Go right ahead.
Oh, the
We
microphone.
can't
yeah.
hear you.
As close as you
Real close.
No.
More.
Me now?
can.
now?
Yes.
How come as you pull it in, you get softer?
I don't know, because it's closer. So close. During our budget presentation, we had a request for our public transportation operating budget. We had explained at that time that we have multiple FTA awards, and then there are multiple projects within those awards, and those are to be used over the course of time. But we do prepare an annual budget. We do a quarterly meeting with the tribe and any of the other jurisdictions that request to do so. So I figured that I would share the same information with you as well. So this is our quarterly update tracking sheet of our operating budget for public transportation. Similar to what you're used to seeing here, you see an FY19, FY20 actual. The FY20, you notice a sizable increase. We
Yeah.
opened the transit center, we had a new position, and we also had a vacant position for quite some time that we filled. Also, we had the COVID hit in March, and with our CARES Act funding, we were paying 100% of a lot of our operating expenses, whereas we usually would only fund 80 or 50%, with the match coming in on the back end. So those numbers, that's the considerable increase you see there. The FY21 budget, you'll notice, dips down about $100,000. Again, we projected out that we would be paying our operating expenses for fixed route with the CARES Act funding at 100% for the first quarter, and then going back into our normal operations budget for the remainder. So our anticipated budget did go down by almost $100,000. So then you go into our quarterlies. We're currently just finishing up with the quarter 2, and then you can see our year-to-date and our percent of budget. So halfway through the year, logistically, we would expect to be around 50%. So where you see the higher numbers, the fixed route PM, we're at 79% there. We had 4 large repairs that were in the 100% category of almost $11,000. So I'd expect this to even out for the remainder of the year. Everything else is right about where we would expect it to be. Training, again, with COVID-19, our travel has been somewhat restricted. We did have 2 travel trainings go through. They were 100% reimbursed with RTAP funding. So we have had the opportunity to get out and do some training. We've been doing more things just online that are no charge for our CPE credits. So again, we've got $7,500 budgeted there. We have had some expenses, but they've been 100% reimbursed with the RTAP. So that's where we are to date. If you would like, I can send this to you. We prepare it quarterly. We can come and present it here to you quarterly, or we can just send it to you via email, whatever you would prefer.
Is this
What's your
actually included in here or no? So it's not in our quarterly things.
Oh, I'd like you to send it,
Email.
Yeah,
unless there's something really significant,
Yep.
then it would be good to talk about it.
We We just thought we would take the opportunity,
Yeah.
and then we have a couple of other things we'll address with you that are also pertinent right now.
Okay, so the, roughly, was it the $4 million that you got in CARES funding? Where does that, I think you touched on this, Kim, but essentially, are most of these expenses actually covered by the $4 million? Or is that the B budget, the operations?
There are some of those funds were expended in here.
Right.
Right now, we are spending only things that are directly related to COVID. Are we using those dollars for? Those dollars do not have a sunset. A lot of our dollars, reminding you that all of our funding comes from FTA or competitive grants.
And
We
they
don't get
sunset.
support from
Right.
tax base or anything like that. So those funds will not expire. We have older awards that will expire, so we want to use those dollars first. The FAST Act had a 1-year extension, which is the next item that we'll talk about with our program of projects. After that, we're not sure what's going to happen in the future. So CARES Act right now is our safety net for operations, should we have a problem meeting match or just having funding to keep the operations going.
Okay. So just as an example, if I look at the first item, fixed route ops, operations, fiscal 21 year-to-date to 252,000 and change, what percentage of that, if at all, is covered by the COVID grant?
Again, probably October through December, more the first quarter is what we used our CARES Act funding
Okay,
for.
okay,
For the second quarter, we've converted back to using our older awards.
okay, fair enough. How do you make that determination?
Of what we're going to spend.
Well, not so much what you're going to spend, what percentage is COVID and what percentage is ours, or FTA for that matter?
Much of the spending that we have has projects related to it. And so if it's, say, we had an agreement with the tribe for the first 3 months that we would cover 100% of the operations. So that was clearly COVID. All of our salaries were charged by COVID. So unless we had older dollars, we kind of dedicated that through December of FY20, we would use our CARES Act funding. Now it's more specific. If we had somebody, for example, if we had some people that were out and we needed admin time because they're on quarantine, but we still want to pay them, that would clearly be COVID. And so we would use the COVID dollars.
Fair enough,
for that
okay,
100%.
okay. Thank you.
So next, we have our program of projects. We brought this before you for approval before we put the public notice out. It was, the public notice was published on April 2nd and will be coming before you. Next business meeting will be the public hearing for the program of projects. We have not had any comments to date. Have you received anything? So we would anticipate that this will go through. If we do get comments, we can address them at the public hearing. Again, because of our CARES Act funding, we're utilizing older dollars that have already been programmed on prior program of projects to offset our expenses for the remainder of this year. I have a small amount there for the para-ops. We are allowed to do 20% at the 80-20 as opposed to 50-50, so I wanted to utilize those funds. And then we have some capital expenses there where we didn't have older dollars. We're going to be using those for, let me see, I have them exactly here. Some bus stop upgrades, equipment, radios, things like that for this $130,000. Everything else will be banked for future use. So that will be coming before you on Tuesday at the public hearing.
Okay. Questions? Keep going.
Okay, and next is the strategic service plan. I'll turn that over to Jody.
So we launched our strategic.
Pull the mic in. There you go.
We launched our strategic service plan project in April, and one of the most exciting aspects of this project is the integration of our plan into each jurisdiction's planning process. You can see who our partners are. Kootenai County is growing and changing, and public transportation must evolve as well. Kootenai County Strategic Service Plan lays out what the area public transportation system should become and sets goals, objectives, and strategies for attaining an efficient and effective mobility system. A key goal of our strategic service planning effort is to integrate multimodal mobility options, enabling individuals to plan and execute complete trips throughout the region. This will include non-motorized transportation options as well. Key objectives of our planning include improving service, meeting current future ridership demands, increasing bus operation efficiency and effectiveness, as well as reducing overall operating costs. This slide details a representative list of the activities we will conduct to meet the goals and objectives of our service plan. Kootenai County Public Transportation's Strategic Service Plan Working Group met the 21st of April. It was an excellent meeting. We really look forward to working with the jurisdictions, and as I mentioned, one of the most exciting aspects is that our service plan will be integrated into their planning documents. So if you think about KCAT, KMPO, the jurisdictions, all of them have transportation planning. The idea behind this coordinated collaborative effort is to bring it all together so that public transportation, in particular the intermodal, multimodal systems, will be integrated. And this will make a huge difference in terms of when they design the roads. So when you think about the road design, to have it incorporated with public transportation, biking, ped, is an excellent opportunity for mobility options. This is the individuals that were part of our working group. We'll leave it there for a moment so you can read it.
Now,
Sorry.
earlier you indicated Rathdrum, so they're signing up. Is that it? They're coming on board?
Right, so all the jurisdictions actually participated, which is an exciting for us, and from Post Falls alone, there were 4. So we have engineers and planners. And so the idea behind this is that you have the engineering and planning departments of the jurisdictions working with us to talk about the public transportation options, which, by the way, is more than just buses. So it really is looking at it holistically.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know that we will be conducting a location feasibility study as part of our public transportation planning initiative, and we will present the findings of the study to KCAT, KMPO jurisdictions, and obviously to the Board of County Commissioners. And that is less than 7 minutes.
Okay, cool. Any questions?
Nope. Just can I have the slideshow? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, copy us on the slideshow. Did you want to copy, Bill? Yeah, all 3. Thank you, ladies. Good job. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the third item. Bill, offer for the Republican and Democratic Central Committees to live stream their monthly meetings using county equipment, potential action item. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I think since we started doing live stream in January, not this January, but the January before, a lot of people have really been able to attend and be part of, and the transparency is there for anybody who's interested with the county. And I thought, that's the same thing. We could offer that formally to the Republican Central Committee and the Democrat Central Committee. If they meet here, we're not going to chase them around with cameras. And I've talked to Nancy, and she's agreed to do it at no charge. And I suggested maybe for the first 3 months, and let's see how it works. And so I'd like to see that happen.
Okay, so we're offering it to them.
Yes.
Leslie?
I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure that Nancy's not overburdened, and if we can train more people on the system, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah.
Can we do that? Actually, we should. It shouldn't be entirely, I agree with Leslie, it should not be entirely on your shoulders. Okay, cool. Okay.
So what I would do is make a motion that the chairman contact each of the central committees and make that offer in writing.
Fair enough. Is that a formal motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, motion is carried, and I will do so. I will write a letter to the individual chairman for the Republican and Democratic Central Committees and make the offer. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, pending item status review. Here we go. First item, County Form of Government Study Commission, commission. And so, so the 9 members have been appointed, and I guess, Nancy, I might ask you to come up just briefly or comment. You're in the process of trying to get their first meeting established, and then they can take it, I guess, from there.
Nancy Jones for the record, Commissioners. Yes, I've reached out to them and thanked them for their willingness to volunteer. Their training with me is set up for the 11th. So that'll be next Tuesday. We will go over open meeting law, public records law, a little bit about the history of this topic at the county. I've printed off some historical documents. I'll have a binder for them with that, as well as the statutes that are applicable, some contact information for principals at the county they may want to speak with. I will be their liaison for any legal opinion requests they have. And once we get that training done, I don't expect it to be more than about 45 minutes to an hour. Technically, it doesn't have to be open meeting. Nancy Pluff has offered to tape it so that we can still be very transparent on the information they receive. And then they will set their first official meeting as a committee.
I'd really like it to be an open meeting, so people could come in and sit down, and they don't need to comment, but they could come in and see what's going on.
Yeah, we're working very hard to make this as transparent as possible. I did some updates. I've had some great input from the community. We are adding the videos of all of the applicable meetings to the page that's been created for that
Good.
group, and the contents of the binder will be on that webpage as well.
Very good.
Questions? Thank you, Nancy. Okay, moving on. Facilities expansion. Leslie?
Still waiting for the study to come back. So, do you want to speak to it, Corey?
I'll just give you just a real quick update. We had a phone conference with LCA last week, Sean and I did, and then they're going to come up on the 13th and 14th, and we're just going to kind of really just color up plans and things like that to kind of come up with 2 or 3 different options for you, and then we'll probably be coming back to you with something shortly after that. So we are working, moving ahead on it.
So when we say facilities expansion, for the benefit of everyone listening in, this is a total county-wide, it's a look at our total facilities, including the eventual occupation of Kootenai North, which was Kootenai Electric. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, and we did tour that facility was it last Friday or?
Friday
a week
before.
ago? Friday before, yeah. We took some people from the Sheriff's Department, and Dave Callahan was out there too, so that we could take them through and take a look at the building and talk about some potential uses for that too.
Okay, cool. Any questions for Corey? Thank you. Okay, Pack Airport, Pack Airport lease.
Nothing new to report.
Okay. Is Wally still mulling that over?
I think was in Stevens Court last time I heard, but I don't know if Stevens reached back out to them, so maybe it's back in Wally's. I'm just not sure. And I
Stephen
thought
was
Stephen-
gone last week on leave, so he's back now.
So he's back this week. Okay, can you follow up with Stephen? Okay, thank you. 1A, 1B audio upgrade for this room. Nancy, it begins early June, is that correct?
June 14th to the 17th are our official dates. Meetings have been moved as they need to be for that week. Everybody's on board. And we're getting ready to issue the check for the down payment on the project and do the engineering.
Okay. Okay, then. Financial snapshot. Dina.
Thank you, Commissioners. In front of you, you have our second quarter unaudited quarterly report. And rather than just a one page, my team puts this together every 3 months to give you a comprehensive look at where we're at. So I thought it would be fun to go through this. Now, whether you think that's fun or not, I'll make it brief. So on the cover is a table of contents for areas of interest. So we start out with a letter from the clerk, and then on page 1, this is an overview of by elected official where we're at right now. So grand total, we're at 48% spent for halfway through the year, so we're just a little under budget. You go to the next page, page 2. This is pretty interesting from a fund balance perspective. So at the very top, you see that 98,949, 394. You'll probably recognize
That was
that
our
number.
budget.
That was our
Yep.
that was our adopted budget. Then the next section is what we rolled forward in capital. And then the section after that is all of the budget amendments that we've had throughout the year. A lot of them are grants, but still, all of the budget amendments. And then we add in the elements of health insurance and EMS. So right now, total budget for 2021 is sitting at 139 million, if you count it all together. So pretty big.
Okay.
So the next few sections goes through and gives you more detail than what you had on page 1. It goes through by elected official and breaks it down with by personnel, operating, and capital, and you can see on a total level in the gray lines and at an individual level in up above the totals where each department is at by department. So we can page through there. There's some sections that talk about grants. And let's see here. Get through to something. Okay, let's go to page 20.
Okay.
So on page 20, this shows you what we've collected in property tax up to now by fund. So we're 63% collected for the year, which is great. So over 50%. And some of that is late charges and fees from previous years, which is usually why we're just a little bit over 50%. And then again, as with the expenses, the next few pages go through and give you those property tax details, collections by fund.
So the benefit for everyone involved, anybody that might be listening in, so we budgeted 55.1 million to be collected in property taxes for this fiscal year, right?
Yes,
And year-to-date, we've collected about 34.5 mil.
correct.
So we're about 63% of the way there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So then if we jump to page 23, this shows you a snapshot of non-property tax revenue by fund.
Okay.
Page 24 gives you a cash balance summary. And then page 25 gives you the fund balances by restricted, budgeted for operations, capital carry forwards, what's assigned and what's unassigned. Now, we did our assigned fund balance resolution in April, so our changes weren't captured in this report. So in Q3, you will see those new fund balance assignments and the new unassigned at the far right.
Okay.
Going on to page 26, this is the movement of fund balance. So what this does is it says we have our beginning fund balance, and then we see revenues coming in by fund, expenses going out by fund, the year-to-date change, net up or down, and then how that would affect the fund balance as of today. Now, we don't finalize those fund balances until we close the books, but this just gives you an overview of about where we're at by fund based on our collections and expenditures. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So then we've got some green pages. Keith likes to call this the hot sheet. So in the first part, you're going to see reference letters in red. Those reference letters are repeated here in the hot sheet, and this is where the analytical comments are that explain if a department is above 50% in any area. Anything that's an anomaly above where we should be for Q2, we have analytical comments, and those are all referenced on the hot sheet. So if you're short on time, you can flip open your quarterly and go straight to the bright colored sheets, and that'll give you what the moving factors are for the quarter. And then the last section on page 31, this is pretty detailed and it's several pages, but it captures all of our active grants. And when I started at the county in 2016, our grants were about 10 million. If you count CARES Act, we're now at 31 million, which is about 23% of our budget. So we have a lot of grants out there. So what these pages do is there's some different colored lines. That's just to separate them by their groupings of their source. Gives you what the total grant amount is, how much is match, how much is grant dollars, how much we've used to date, and then at the far right, it gives you the performance period for the grants. Some of these span multiple years, but we take a quick snapshot of Q2 and where we're at with those.
Okay.
So, clear as mud?
Okay, one question for the benefit of everyone. So, okay, so when we adopted the budget for the year, this current fiscal year, it was 98.9 mil. And I don't have the precise figure in front of me, but our amended is pushing, was it 138, was it?
139,
I'm sorry?
139.
Okay, so for the benefit of everyone, can you explain the reason for the roughly $40 million difference?
Sure. So we rolled forward construction in progress and
Okay.
projects that we were working on that we budgeted for in 2020. So those were 2020 budget dollars that we
Right.
just picked up and we dumped into the budget so that we could finish those projects. A lot of times these projects take multiple years. So that bumps up that total budget number. Then in the second part, if we have grant awards, and a lot of these are grant awards, one of the biggest ones here is the transportation grants. That's what RMO covered this morning. Because besides the $4 million that we received in CARES funding, FTA received their own separate CARES money.
Right.
So a lot of this increase is driven by CARES funding in several areas. Airport also received their own CARES dollars. The broadband grants are in here as well. So there's a lot of that going on. So we count those at the end of the year as our budget, but we don't actually budget those grants until we receive the money. That's why there's that big jump. But like I said, 23% of our budget now is grants, so that gives you an idea of the jump.
Okay. So I think it's important for people to note, and I'm going to ask you to comment here, that with the amended budget going from the 99 to the 139 for the reasons you just gave, that does not increase the tax burden. Is that a fair
No.
statement?
No, not unless there's match money. And with CARES going on, like Kim stated earlier, a lot of that CARES funding is 100%. There's not a lot of match requirements. We haven't seen a lot of match requirements. So yes, the capital portion that was carried forward, that was 2020 money that comes forward, so that didn't increase the levy. And the grant changes didn't increase the levy.
Fair enough. Any more questions for
Nice to hear.
Dina?
And then
Good.
just for clarification, anybody can go to our
Yes.
website, the clerk's page.
Yes,
and
the clerk's
find this
page.
report.
Financial reports, quarterly reports go back several years. So if you're, have insomnia, it's a good place to go.
Any other questions for Dina? Thank you, Dina. Dina, by the way, Dina Darrow is our finance director. Thank you, Dina. Okay, so moving on, that was a financial snapshot, ballot bond language. This is for the new building. Leslie?
Yep, same with building financing, both on hold until legislatures in recess, which seems to never get here.
Are they making any progress on the tax, or does it look like maybe business as usual?
Yes, no, I think we have, they're getting close to having a bill number.
Okay,
So when that happens, then it will,
we'll have a better idea.
yep.
Okay, then, so that concludes our status update for pending items. And our final item is item number 5, which is a consideration to go into executive session. So I'll entertain a motion.
I move we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061C.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Entering into executive session, I don't see any of our attorneys here. Is one anticipated? I guess not. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So the time is now 11:51. We're about to exit executive session. Is there a motion?
I move we exit executive session with staff to proceed as discussed.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye, and the motion is carried. Public comment? Hearing none. 11:52, meeting adjourned. Thank you.